right, everyone, we are moving right along here. We are going to go and start playing with the very first thing we're going to be playing around with are the Azure AD password policies, as well as the self-service password reset and some company branding. So the first thing, we'll get started with the company branding. It's the easiest thing to set up, and it's one of the most straightforward. Again, we're going to log into the admin portal as we've done here. We're going to go to all admin centers. We're going to come over here to Azure Active Directory. And then we're going to go ahead and click on Azure Active Directory. And as we come down here, we have this wonderful little section called Company Branding. So we're going to click on that. And then we're going to hit Configure. Now, I always set this up here, and I just kind of use some fun stuff here. But so we have a sign-in page background, as well as a logo that we use on here too. So let's go ahead. Now, I have a couple of, I'll do this over here just so I can pull up everything I need easy. And I'll show you a couple ones that I do just to have a little bit of fun. Pulling this up here, and we are doing that. All right, and banner logo, there it is. Well, all right, as I said, I am a very large fan of Rush, so I just picked these on here. Find whatever you want on the internet. It's perfectly fine. Just make sure they fit this criteria, PNG, JPEG. This one has to be less than 300K, and then this one has to be essentially these image size here. And then this one has to be this. Username hint. PSP organization. Actually, oops, I'm sorry, I put it in the wrong category there, so I'm going to copy that and put it for there. And then the username hint is user at Pocket Square Professor.live. Okay, we don't care too much about these alternative pieces here. And then if we want to show that option to remain signed in, which we never do, I always uncheck that one there because that's kind of annoying. So we're going to leave that like that. And then we're going to have a little bit of company branding here. And I'll show you what this looks like. So we're going to go ahead and hit save. Now we have to wait a little bit for this again to replicate out there. It's going to go out there. It's going to take a little bit of time. So we'll come back to this here at the end of this just to make sure everything's working. And I'll show you essentially why we care about branding. We can do some really cool things here because we can do this based off of different languages and different locales. So again, maybe if we are a global organization, we have different locations throughout the world. Maybe we want to have different branding pages that are come to it. So, all right, with that being said, let's jump over now to, and we come over here to security. So we're going to look at the password policies. So we come here to authentication mechanisms. And we come down and we come to password protection. So we have a couple of things that we can do. Now, we have on here where we can do custom banned passwords. Is that, yes, we have this, and we cannot use password 123 as a password. That is unacceptable. Now, we can obviously expand this list out, but maybe we don't want it to say, have any reference to Pocket Square Professor or to the organization or anything like that. Maybe we don't want to do that. Okay, that's fine. We can have that on there. So we also have the ability to do lockout thresholds. Lockout thresholds are going to be how many times can I fail to sign in. So again, this stops brute force attacks as well as, well, 10 is really not that difficult. And again, I'm sure on our mobile phones there we have a lot of us have that set as well, where if we type in too many times we get locked out. Well, in this instance here, if we type it too many times, we get locked out in duration. We have it set by default to 60 seconds. So that will increase over time as well. Then we have this ability here where we can do password protections on the Windows server. So this will essentially allow us to have our cloud-based protections on our on-premise servers. We're not really going to worry about that here since this is just a lab. Not that big of a deal. So we'll go ahead and hit save. Alrighty, everything looks great here. We do have the ability to use additional ones, which we will do here in time. We're not going to touch these, but just to show you here, we have the ability to shut some of these off too if we want. So let's come back over here to our admin role here. Now, as a whole, we have essentially, we've set the company branding. We have set the password policy, which again, we just really changed one thing. It was nothing too much on there. But then what we're going to be doing here next is, again, we've set the branding, we set the password policies, and then we are going to set the self-service password reset. Now this is an important piece on here, because if we come over here to password reset, we can set this up here. By default it's set to none. We can have this to a select group of users, or we can have this to all. Well, I say we're going to have this to a selected group of users. I'm going to do this to just one user. We're going to use Neil. All right, we'll try Neil. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. We have to do it as a group first. Duh. So what we'll do here is we'll do this M365 license, since we picked that one already and Neil's already in that group there. I'm sorry. So we have the M365 license. That is the one that is currently allowed to use the password reset function. Now we're not completely done yet, because what we actually have to do is we have to come back to our on-premise Active Directory. And if you have shut it off, go ahead and pause it and then get your machine back up and running. So we'll go ahead and close all of these out from the last time we were in here. We're going to double click on the Azure AD Connect. So this is the installer. I'm going to double click on this one here. It's going to take a minute or two for it to load up. But what we're going to do here is we have to enable the self-service password reset. So what this does is, remember when I said that the AD Connect server is essentially unidirection for the most part, except for in certain circumstances? Well, we can actually set this here so it is bidirectional for passwords. So in this instance here is that when we log into Office 365 and let's just say we want to change our password, well, right now we have to enable this on the AD Connect server so it can bidirectionally write this information down. So just to show you here, we're going to look at a couple of different things on here, but we're going to go ahead and sign in to our Azure AD, so again, this is to the Office 365 side we're going to sign in with. It's going to reach out and connect. Okay. Then we're going to go ahead and hit next. Since we're already connected to our on-premise environment, we're going to skip the domain and OU filtering. We don't really care about that. We are going to put a little checkbox in here for password write back. So we're going to go ahead and hit next. And it's going to configure this. Good. Then we will configure. Now this may take a minute or two for it to install, but what it's doing here is it's allowing us to do a password reset in the cloud. If we do, hey, we forgot our password in the cloud, we can do it that way. And what it'll end up doing is it'll write it back down on premise. So if I change it in the cloud, it'll write it back down on premise, and all of my attributes, or excuse me, not attributes, but everything that I would log into on premise, I would be able to sign into those with my new password. The reason why this is disabled by default is because sometimes some organizations see this as a potential security risk. I do have some of my customers that they just don't allow it. And the reason being is that they want all password resets to be taken from the help desk or from some inside of the organization. So that's fine. I can understand that, but again, I always try to err towards the side of enablement, allowing the users to be able to reset their passwords, because enabling this allows us to use some of the other advanced features, which we will get to in time. But again, the idea here is there are certain ways that we can play around with the password policies in terms of how people can change these. Now we're just going to let this run here for a minute, so I'll come back. I don't want to waste your time again, so we'll give this just a minute here and I'll be right back when this is finished. Okay, about 2 minutes later here, that all finished up and it has been successfully done. I accidentally closed out before I hit the record button, but not a big deal. It just said it successfully did it. Now, what does that all mean? Well, let's come over here and let's pull up the portal. Looking at what we have on here, let's come over here real quick to the, where's the AD Connect? There we go, AD Connect. And we should see, we have all of these enabled. So we have our syncs are working. We're good across the board. I just wanted to make sure that our syncs and everything were working. So we come back over here to password reset. We have it set for this particular user. We can come over here. So again, using the instance of, hey, this is not secure enough. Well, let's look at some of the options that we have here. So we can set up 1 or 2 methods to require to do. Let's do 2. We want to do security questions. Here's a number of questions required to register. We'll just do 3 since this is just a lab. We're not all that concerned about it. Maybe we want to do some security questions. We can do predefined security questions. These aren't necessarily the most secure to use because a lot of these here can be found through phishing attempts. So more importantly, whaling is the big piece of it here, is that with some digging, I may be able to find out what your father's middle name is or your favorite food. I can potentially find that on information like social media and such. So if you are a high-level employee in an organization like a CEO or CFO or whatever, maybe I can find some of this information online and be able to reset your password. Well, remember, we have to, coming back in here under the questions here, remember, we have to do 2. So we also have to do an email, SMS, security questions. So it has to be any one of these. We're going to uncheck that and that because what we actually want is the mobile app notification. Users have to register for this here, but we'll get to that in time. All right. You must enable another method or use mobile app. Okay, so we will do also the mobile phone one just to make it as a backdoor just in case somebody can't do this on the mobile app. All right, now as we have it here, let's do some questions. We'll do in what city was your first job? I'll hit OK, and then we'll do another predefined one as what is your favorite food? Looks good there. And then we'll do a custom one is what is 2 plus 2? Because that's just the easiest one I could think of off the top of my head. All right, so there's the 3 questions that are available to you. Okay, so we'll go ahead and hit save, and now we have this as an option. Now, with enabling this here, we have some potential things that we have to look at, is that users have to register when they essentially come in. They're going to have to do a dual registration when they try to log in now that this has been enabled for them. So we'll show what that experience is here too. Notifications, do we want to notify when users password, when they reset their passwords? Do we want to notify all admins? By default, this is shut to off, and that's probably a good idea here because, again, this can get out of hand. I don't want 800 emails saying that, hey, so-and-so reset their password. It's all in audit logs, so we'll be able to pull it up, of course, but that's up to you if you want to go that route. Do we want a help desk link here? Maybe we'll have like an internal SharePoint site or something like that. On-premise integration, we're not really going to talk too much about this here, but it's just essentially just is looking to see is that, hey, are we able to do so? So we don't have a cloud sync agent, but we have the AD Connect sync agent. It is up, and your on-premises write-back client is up and running, as you can see on here. We also have an administrator policy, so this is a little bit different. Do we want self-service password for cloud administrators? By default, all of this stuff is set to yes, and we do have the ability to reset these if we want. That's completely up to us. We could shut it off too. Maybe we don't want our administrators to be able to do that. It only can be done on-premise. That's not a bad practice either, but I'll leave that one up to you as an organization if you decide that, you know, hey, this makes sense. I always leave that up to my customers. Activity, as I said here, we have full audit logs. We can see that, hey, password has been done, and you can see it was initiated by the admin, which was done on premise. Okay, so self-service password has been set. So let's go ahead and test out what that experience looks like. And again, we're going to use Neil here in this instance. And we're also, hopefully, should have our company branding by that time as well. So we're going to go ahead and go to login.microsoftonline.com. I'm going to use Peart at Pocket square professor.live. Next. There we go. You'll notice that we have a picture in the background, which is a little grainy here, but I just like this picture here. And then we have the little logo up here at the top. This is for the PSP organization, Pocket Square Professor organization. And essentially looking through this whole process here, all right, cool. We're able to essentially do our stuff on here. So if we log in, we're going to get this, and it says more information is required. So we're going to go ahead and hit next. So this is starting to ask us here to register for our password reset. So I'm going to get my phone out so I can go through this process here. Yeah, I'm going to use the Authenticator app. I think it is the easiest to use. It gives you an option to download it. Just go to the portal on your phone. Android, iOS, both of them work. Just go to the iOS store, download the Microsoft Authenticator app, and they even say how to do so too. So you can go download here, and it actually give you the option to do it. All right, now it's going to ask us to scan this QR code, which this is not going to work after I get it set up. So you unfortunately will not be able to utilize this one here. But what will end up happening is I'll be able to scan this QR code, and it automatically pulls the information that is relative to my organization. Sets up the account already for me and pretty much everything. So I'll go ahead and hit next. And then it's going to, hey, it popped up on my phone and it says, hey, do I want to approve the sign-in? Yes. Now the next piece here is going to have my mobile phone on it, so I am going to move this out of the way for the time being. Yes, we will put my phone in here, so it's going to text me a code, which I will move this back here in just a second for you. Okay, SMS verified. We are good. And there we go. All right, I am signed in right now. Hey, welcome to your office. And again, we've seen this probably about 800 times now. Looks good, everything looks great, wonderful. Now I'm going to go ahead and sign out. And I'm going to go through the password reset prompt. So now we are fully closed out. Let's go ahead. I'm just going to copy this because, well, I like to work smarter, not harder. Do another incognito. Go over here and log into Microsoft Online. There. And it says, okay, I'm logged into the account. I forgot my password. Click on that. All right, I have to prove that I am not a robot. Next. Okay, and essentially it does blur out mine on here, so give it a minute here and it will do this. Or I can do a notification, so either one of these here will work. Let's do the notification, just easier. Good. All right, and since we chose two-step verification, I have to do two, so give me just a second, and let me enter my phone number in. Do this verification. Okay. I'm going to do my type in a new password, and my password has been reset. So I can sign in with a new password by clicking here, and it'll essentially take me in. I'm good. Now what ends up happening as well is I would be able to log into any on-premise resources with those credentials, the brand new credentials that I just created. So if I come over here to the audit logs, it may, hey, there we go. Neil Peart, self-server's password reset has done. It was successful. So I was able to do it. And again, all of this is audited here. I have full access to it and I can control it all. Really cool stuff here. And again, we can make this very complicated if we want. We can make this very less complicated if we want. I just chose to do, when I did the reset, I chose not to do the security questions because those were kind of annoying. So I just did the mobile app as well as the SMS. So looking at all of these pieces that are on here, very easy stuff that we ended up doing here, but overall increases our security posture just a little bit, and we are allowing our users to be able to self-service password reset, which I will show you in time here why that's important. So with that being said, that is all for this particular lecture or lab here. We're going to jump into our second portion of this lab here. We're going to set up conditional access and multi-factor authentication. Really cool stuff here. Looking forward to checking it out here with you, and see you on the next one.